Next up, we have Coach Jeff Koonz, our inside linebackers coach and special teams coordinator. Questions for Coach Koonz?
So Jeff, start with linebacker. Just give me an overview of how they've done this spring.
Yeah, it's been a really productive spring. I say that because for the first time since I've been here, we've got the most competition. We've got the most plays returning from one year to the next that we've ever had. So it's been fun. The challenge for them coming back in January was to start spring football not where we left in the Mayo Bowl, but another 2 steps beyond that. And I think we accomplished that. You know, we're at a point in spring ball right now. We're 10 practices in. We've got way more defense in right now than we would have for one singular game. So there's been a lot of pressure on really everybody schematically to keep everything categorized so that we can call a multitude of things within one practice. And for those guys in the middle, they have the most adjustments. They have the most alignments, most change-ups, and I've done a really good job with it. And that experience is showing. As a unit, definitely more explosive, definitely faster than we finished the season. Testament to Mike and his staff. I feel like I say that every year, but when you have that in the weight room and what they're able to do, it shows. And then 2 guys coming off injury with Trey and Josiah, who testament to Vince and the training staff, all those guys and girls downstairs, what they've done from a physical therapy standpoint has been just tremendous. So it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch them compete, and we've been more productive than we have been as well.
Surprised that Trey and Josiah could play at the speed that they're going this spring. Doesn't seem to be much from their injuries.
Yeah, you've obviously seen it. Yeah, I mean they're playing fast. I think there might have been some mental things maybe early on, but after about day 1, day 2, it was full speed running, and they've been phenomenal and have had no glitches, no hiccups at all. So it's been fun to watch. So they were on schedule. They were actually both ahead of schedule, so I'm not surprised whatsoever. So again, testament to all the staff members that it took to get them where they need to be.
A lot of players, offensive and defensive, mentioned Trotter. From your eyes, what have you seen from him? What makes him what he is?
Yeah, first of all, he's a physically imposing guy. He's a bigger body guy than we've had. So he stands out because of his sheer size. He also has good instincts. He's played a lot of football. You go back to his high school career, he played very early in his career. He's got a ton of reps, and he played for a program that went deep into the playoffs and played for state championships every year. So for him to come in as a freshman, early enroll, he's probably played more snaps than anybody just over the last 5 or 6 years. So he has so much experience in finding the ball and playing inside linebacker. The thing that he does a great job of, in my opinion, to this point, is when he makes a mistake, he makes it full speed, but he doesn't make the same mistake twice. He gets it fixed, and I'd say that's a testament to the entire room. I feel like that's been kind of our MO all spring, is that we'll make a mistake once and get it fixed, and it doesn't turn into 2 and 3 times. But I can see that just because of the amount of experience that Josiah has, along with his size, and like I said, he can find the ball and can finish plays.
You mentioned how engaged he was last year, even after he was injured. How much did that help his progression?
I would imagine it helped tremendously. Probably a good question for him. But kind of recount what we talked about. He was a guy that was engaged. He was in all meetings. He'd come seek me out individually. He'd want to come meet and watch practice film. I would give him projects to do and breakdowns with opponents, and just to keep him engaged and to keep his mind fresh. So I think I would definitely say it would help, but some of that too is just the way he's built and how much he loves the game.
So after the season, because Lee was going to graduate, you had a bunch of young guys. So how important was it to get someone like Reed in, just to be a veteran in the room?
Yeah, I think the thing about Reed, and he's done a phenomenal job of adjusting to our culture here at West Virginia. The thing about Reed was Reed wanted to be here. Reed definitely was a welcome addition to the room, but he fit who we are, as a culture, as a program, and it's been phenomenal to have him with us. How he's gravitated to the other players. He's a mature guy. He's an older guy, being in his 4th year of college football, And you look at a room right now where I could have as many as 6 guys that have played meaningful snaps in Power 4 football, and that's invaluable. So he's been a great addition. Love his work ethic, love his physicality. He can run. It's been an adjustment because the system is completely different than what was accustomed to the last 3 years, and he's done a nice job improving on that every day.
I know it's early, but rotation at linebacker. Last year, at times you were happy to get 2 on the field. Now, you at least looks like you'll have the ability to rotate some people. Something you want to do, or how's that work?
Absolutely. I want to do that. I want to keep fresh bodies. And what this is going to enable us to do, too, is, when teams want to get big on us, now we're going to have the ability to do sub-packages and to be bigger and take guys out of my room and put them at outside linebacker and vice versa. And we're teaching a lot of scheme things here. And so it's going to give us the ability to, at times, have as many as 3 guys on the field, if not more. And then also we want to rotate those guys. We want to keep them fresh. There were times last year where I think we were hanging on a little bit in the end of games just because of a limited depth. And that showed on special teams. And obviously I'm not just sitting here saying that because I'm the special teams guy as well, but when you play linebacker, you play running back, you play tight end, you better be a special teams contributor as well if you want to play this game for a long time. So now with this much depth in the room, that's also going to, bleed over into special teams where guys can play on 2 units maybe instead of 1 because they got to play way more snaps than they probably should on defense. So there's a universal effect that having more talent and more bodies in the room is gonna do.
To Greg's point, you've had to be resourceful with your guys because of the sheer numbers. Obviously, you've got more guys now, and you've got some bigger body linebackers, which you really haven't had.
Correct.
So those are all helpful things for you as you plan forward, right?
Absolutely, and that's been by design. I mean, this is something that, it's taken a few years to get this exactly how we want it, to get the body types, to get the to stack classes and recruiting, and to be able to develop guys and retain them, as Coach talks about, and to make sure that we're continuing to grow, with guys that are all in on what we're trying to do from an early age. And you're seeing that now. It's been a lot of hard work over the last 4 years, but we're starting to see that now, and it's been fun.
Who would the 6th guy be you mentioned?
Well, Jairo Favres, who's coming off, who's missing this spring. I mean, he played meaningful snaps last year in sub packages, and he's not going to be able to go through this spring, but he's a guy that has played in games and, in a more of a sub package role, but he has played.
What have you seen from them this spring?
Yeah, Ben, he is definitely one of those guys that I told you is quicker, is more explosive, he's faster. His weight room numbers have definitely increased, and he was already a weight room guy before he got here, but it's very positive. He's increased his flexibility. And the other thing with him is, and I can't say this enough with all these guys, they're all learning inside linebacker. Mike and Will are the 2 positions that I coach. They're all having to learn both of them. And Ben's a guy that's taken his coverage to another level this spring. He's been, he's decreased missed tackles, which was a point of emphasis for him, and he's done a really nice job with that. So couldn't be more pleased. And then Caden, not to be rhetorical or repetitive with it, but is faster, is quicker, is more explosive. You can see it. He diagnoses really well. Has made some plays in coverage. He's had some picks. He's had some PBUs, while also fitting a little quicker than last year, seen it a little faster. And this is a guy that started in the bowl game and played pretty well in the bowl game, and he's continued to press. So we've kind of named them all between Lathan and Trotter and Beiser and Cutter, and then bringing Reed into the equation. And like I said, it's been fun. And the cool thing is they're all phenomenal human beings. They're phenomenal people. They coach each other. They push each other. They call each other out. They encourage each other. It's been as fun a spring as I've ever had coaching the position because of the guys in the room.
Neil has mentioned you probably need one more class to get it perfect. What is it? Is it a body type? Is it a specific type of player? Is it depth? What do you need to get it exactly where you want it?
I think it's a stacking of classes. I think we're hitting the nail on the head with what we're recruiting and what we're taking. We've got 2 talented guys coming in this year that we signed in Ricky Williams and Curtis Jones. They fit the size dimensions, they fit the character dimension, they fit the leadership dimension, they fit the physicality dimension. And in this defense, if you don't strike, if you don't pull the pin, as we say, and diagnose and run through people and play this game with an edge, you're not going to be recruited here. And so those characteristics of what now 3 years in a row we've stacked those classes going back to, I guess it was Lathan 3 years ago. That's what we're looking for, and I feel like I agree with Coach in that we're probably one more, and then that's what the elite programs are doing. They're stacking these classes. They have competition, and they find ways to get their best 11 guys on the field, and that's from any down and distance.
Depth through the class is freshman to senior.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you're going to look at it, and we're going to look pretty young, but to be honest, we're going to have 2 juniors, 2 sophomores, 2 freshmen, and 2 true freshmen. We're getting to where exactly by blueprint what you want, and now it's a matter of just continuing to push those guys and get them better and better.
Do you have both Bisers in your room?
No. Jackson, his brother's with the D-line. Yeah, he's playing defensive end for us. Done a good job.
Their dad at Morgantown High is a huge weight room guy.
Yep.
So I was just wondering, do you see that in them?
Oh, they love football. They love training, 100%. Coach Bisers, you can see what's been instilled in those boys by their parents, and like I said, they love football and they love to train, and you can't do this unless you love it at the end of the day. So.
You said Michael Hayes has been out this, or maybe just limited.
Yep.
So what do you see from the other kickers?
Yeah, no, RJ Kokan's he's done a great job. He's competed. His leg strength, his accuracy has done a phenomenal job, and Michael has been limited with some injuries. It's been fun to see him come up. We've got 2 other younger kickers, and they've done a nice job. So we have talent in the room. They're young. RJ has definitely taken this as an opportunity to step up and to gain some credit and some support from the team and Coach Brown in critical situations. And we've challenged him all spring long, and he's done a nice job answering it.
You mentioned having 4, a bigger group. There's a carryover too to special teams, right? Because your linebackers and your safeties are the ones that coverage units. So you're seeing a lot of help there too.
100%. When you look at some of our issues last year on kickoff coverage, at the last half of the year, it became a little bit of rotating people, and we were trying to find fixes, and we were searching a little bit. Whereas if you didn't have some of those guys go down with injury, if you have the Trotter, you have the Lathan, you have some of these guys that we lost for the year, now you have more options. And that's exactly where you saw the biggest hit was on kickoff specifically, not so much as on punt and on the return units. So that is, going back, how important it is to find and to get talented mid-skill, we call them mid-skills, those linebacker, tight end, running back body types that can compete, and it carries over to special teams as much as anything else.
Chris Herring give you some new ideas in terms of special teams?
Yeah, Chris has been a great addition. Obviously, his experience being a longtime special teams coordinator. Chris has been highly involved this spring with us behind the scenes, and it's been great to have his ideas and to have his thoughts. He's a phenomenal man, and obviously it matters to him to be back at West Virginia, so it's been great.
Jeff, you don't do a lot of kickoff in the spring, correct?
A lot of drill work.
Okay, I was
Yep.
gonna say, so maybe it's not something you forgot about. I guess, so just correct me there. What can you do in the spring, especially with Michael out too?
We've actually done some version of kickoff every day in the spring. So it's been highlighted as a point of emphasis. We've worked on it. We're not going to sit there and line up necessarily in 10 across and have guys run down the field and fit up returns, and we're guessing what we're going to see. All of our special teams come down to techniques, and I've talked about it a little bit before in the past. We call them Mountaineer techniques, and there's about 8 to 9 movements, whether those are how to defeat blocks, whether those are how to avoid blocks, whether those are how to make blocks, because that's what special teams come down to. Cover units, you got to avoid and defeat blocks and finish plays with tackles. Return units, you've got to get offensive and defensive guys skilled up enough to create contact and to make blocks so that the returners have a chance. So we have to categorize those into certain movements, and then we tag those movements into each specific unit. And our entire team knows those. So we can spend the entire spring just working only those Mountaineer techniques and get a ton of work done. So, for instance, on kickoff, we'll mix in how we take the line, how we're timing up our approach with the kicker, but we don't have to do that 10 across. We can do that in groups of 3 and do it in a circuit while there's another group working on how we're going to full speed avoid a block halfway down the field on kickoff or down the field as a gunner on punt. And then another group is working on how we're going to tackle, whether that's a closed space tackle, and we can do that in a controlled setting on a bag or into a crash pad, or where there's minimal injury risk, but we can do full speed technique work. And then we mix in our competitions, which we've talked about. And today was our 6th day of competition, where now you can put a player on one another in a very controlled setting, but it is full speed and a very declared winner or loser. So we can now see who can do it again. So say we have a young player, say we have one of these early enrollee freshmen, and he's really showing up in these drill work. Well, now he goes out there and he's going against Aubrey Burks in a special teams competition drill. Well, how ready is that 18-year-old freshman who should still be in high school? But if he wins, ooh, okay, now you got something here. And we can do that, and you see that across the board. That is one example. But we can do those things in kickoff, and we've got 2 more competitions left starting next week, and it's really a controlled kickoff versus kickoff return, and it turns into a 3-on-3 setting where there's 3 guys taking that drop on kickoff return, and there's 3 guys running down on kickoff in a smaller setting, not the entire field, and we can see, can they avoid the block, can they make the block, and you're going and you're judging, and then we're tallying all that up. We've actually broken the team into 4 teams. We have captains, and they're competing, and everybody gets into it, and the O-line and quarterbacks and interior D linemen that aren't involved, they're over there, and they're giving us juice. And if you watch the beginning of the scrimmage on Friday, we're doing what we call 4-on-4 drill, and we've got as much juice and energy going as at any point in spring. And that's what special teams is. It's getting guys excited about competing no matter what the down is, and you can do a lot of that. And so to answer your question, we've done kickoff every single day. There has not been a day that we haven't done a kickoff technique this spring. And not only is that to get better at the unit, because we know there were some deficiencies there last year, but it's also to bring in all these transfers and young guys so that they know what's going on. So when we go to summertime, they know exactly what technique, no matter where we put them. We can say, oh, you're lining up here, here's your technique. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I did that all spring.
With all that, I'm going to ask you something that I know less about than normal.
Absolutely.
What goes into scheming? Kick coverage, kick return. What are the ABCs of that? I mean, that's something I've never heard anybody really talk about, how they try to set it up, or
That's a good question. No, it's a good question. Anytime, there's always 2 parts of scheme. Number one, we want to take away what they do best. So every time that, say, we're on kickoff and we're scheming or we're game planning against a kickoff return team, we're going to know based off of tendencies and our breakdowns what they do most. They might have a double team on this certain player. They might have a counter return that's been really explosive. They might have a man system where the returner just finds a gap and everybody mans out. And then within our scheme, the second part of that is how can we not defeat returns but play with rules, if that makes sense. Because if I take 10 guys and I'm just trying to stop every return every time we run on the field, they're going to run slow. They're going to be doing this. They're going to be looking down the field. They're going to be trying to find the ball, which we did at times last year, and they're not going to do their job, which is there's 11 guys, starting with the kicker. They're not going to do their job as fast as they can possibly do it. So we want to give them tips. We want to give them what to expect, but we're not going to necessarily change every guy's job every time that we run down the field on kickoff, if that answers your question. So as coaches, it's a fine line between over-teaching returns and what we're going to see and getting guys to run down fast and play as violent as they can, as physical as they can, and get down to make plays and reacting. Everything in special teams is about making game time decisions, split-second decisions, and reacting as fast as possible. And you got to ride that line between over-preparing guys and allowing them to go play, knowing that, okay, I've got this one lane, I've got this one job, I've got this one twist, I've got this one fold fit, and everything else is going to take care of itself.
more reaction than it is.
Absolutely. And if you turn it into anything less than that, you're going to have a bunch of guys running down the field doing this, all right, and probably getting the heck knocked out of them. Yeah, getting the heck knocked out of them, and then there goes the ball. We got to have guys that are hunting, and we got to make sure the only way you can get guys to hunt is to limit how much you're telling them and how much they got to know.
Did you have other core issues last year?
I'm
Are
sorry.
there like core issues that concern you from high to low moments from beginning to end on the kickoff?
On kickoff, yeah, the number one issue that we identified was a personnel issue, and it's not that we didn't have good enough guys on the field. It was that we as coaches probably moved guys around too much, trying to kind of get guys in the perfect spot, if that makes sense. And then after that, we believe that there's techniques that we could teach better from a coaching perspective to allow them to play faster. And we've kind of those two things where we're not really getting into the personnel side of it this spring, so we're fixing the technique part of it this spring, and then we'll get the right pieces in the right spots as we get into summer and fall camp.
Moving around also related to some of just the attrition issues.
Absolutely,
Okay.
100%.
And then I don't want to say kicker, but like Michael had a pretty good touchback percentage before last year
Yes.
and down last year. Was
Yep.
that, I don't know, maybe sometimes you want to kick it inside
Something,
the 5.
yeah, something that we've looked into. No, that percentage was much lower than we would have liked it to be. We've looked at some things in our preparation with him, with our kickers. As the week goes, there's some things that we can tweak that we will this year. That was probably where the evaluation of the kickoff team started, was with him. And I like what we've decided to do, and we're going to make some tweaks. Nothing that anybody to the naked eye will notice, but we feel like we'll give him a better opportunity to stay strong as the year goes on. It's a long year, so you got to make sure you're making good decisions.
More of a Monday through Thursday thing than a Saturday
Yeah,
thing.
more of a Monday through Thursday. Correct, and that's in all aspects. And some of that is recovery to, everything. It goes into everything in our entire building that we have access to. So we've done a lot of research. We've talked to a lot of people, both in the NFL and in college, and talked and listened.
Getting back to the kickoff, that's something you have to simulate. It's not, you can't actually practice that. Is there any other skills in your game that's like that, where you can't really do the actual thing until you actually do it?
That's a good question. I would say that anything in football, you've got to be able to full speed evaluate and teach. And I think the challenge for us as coaches, to me, it's no different. In kickoff, we're doing all this drill work, we're doing all this competition, small settings. It's no different than on defense. We're going to do a half line run fit period before we do a full run fit period, before we pull in the entire team. Same thing in the pass game. We're going to do a 7-on-7 before we get the pass rush element into it, before we get to the team setting. To me, it's no different, if that makes sense. And that's the same for every unit. In punt, we're going to do a half-line punt drill before we do a full punt drill. The gunners are going to go down and work releases, and they're going to – so –
Up to actually doing it.
yeah, I think in every unit, for us, punt is the only thing that we're going to just line up in full formations because that's what we do in the spring. The other 3 units are no different. Kickoff return is no different. Our punt block is no different, if that answers your question. So I think at the end of the day, you've got to put it on film so the guys understand. We talk about 1/11th. They all have to know their job within the other 11 guys or other 10 guys. But how you phase that through an entire year is kind of where the magic is making it easy to learn and building on it.
All the pieces that you put together and you prepare for it, but you don't really know until those guys are lined up and you kick the ball off. How they're going to fill the gaps,
Right.
how the returners are going to – you don't know.
You don't know. And you got to, like I said, you got to bank on guys' experiences. We've got a lot of guys coming back on this football team. We had a lot of positives last year on kickoff. At the end of the day, statistically, yeah, they're skewed. We gave up 2 in one game, and we gave up 3 on the year. Like, they're going to get skewed. Take away 4 returns. And again, nobody likes to sit up here and say that, and I'm not going to say we don't have issues, and we didn't have issues on kickoff. But you take away 4 returns, and we're close to where we need to be. So there was a lot of positives, and we have a lot of guys that have done it. How can we grow that number of guys? And that's essentially what we're trying to do this spring, is grow the number of guys that we can put out there. And we know they know how to fit, they know how to avoid, they know how to defeat blocks, and they know how to get the ball down. And I think I love where we're going. The guys have taken ownership in it, all the way across the board. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see the growth that we've had in it, in all units.
You mentioned kickoff. RJ looks like he has a big leg and he's obviously a big body. Can he help you there?
Yes, he's growing. And the thing about all of our kickers, even going into some of our younger guys, and Savino and Flowers and RJ, and they all have big legs. They're all very capable to get the ball down the field. It's hang time, it's location, there's a big accuracy point to kickoff too. It's not just go bang it through the end zone as much as you can. Because if you don't and you mishit it, if we don't have close to that 4.0 hang time, which is what our goal is, if we're not close to those boundary numbers, depending on where we're kicking it, our coverage is all dictated off of where that ball goes. So there's a lot that goes into it. So we're going to have talent to get the ball down there. It's just going to be a matter of who consistently can put it where it needs to be with the correct hang time. And then, yeah, when it's time to kick touchbacks, let's kick touchbacks. I know you were about to ask another.
Well, I think it's probably similar to that. I wonder if the way they've changed the rules in the past couple of years makes it more inviting to actually give your coverage team a chance to return it. Like, there's certain ways you can't block anymore, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, the risk is if you try to pin it somewhere, I know, but also if you try to throw it in the middle of the end zone and it doesn't work, then your coverage is out of whack too. I mean, I guess what's the standard goal for a kicker then, or does it change so much on the opponent that?
Yeah, if we can get a 4.0, if we can get a 4.0 hang time in the end zone, very few people are going to bring that out. Because by the time they hit the goal line, we should have 4 to 5 people past the 30-yard line, and it's really hard to block that. So when you're watching film, when that guy's catching the ball and you have multiple players past the 30, approaching the 25, they should be keeping it in. If they bring it out, it should be a very positive play for us. If you're kicking it to the goal line where they have to bring it out or they have to make the decision whether they're going to fair catch it or not, we want to have that 4.0 to 4.1 hang time. And at times we had that. At times last year we did have that.
Obviously Preston did most of it last year, but obviously working with others. So what's it look like? Who else are you working on?
We've got a really big pool of both returners and off returners that we're working. Rodney has been back there. Gallagher has been catching. Tyler Evans has been catching as far as the punts go. Kickoff. It's a little bit of, we are looking at some guys that maybe weren't back there last year. Hudson Clement breaks tackles. He's done a nice job with the ball in his hands on offense. He's learning how to do that. Preston's been back there as well. That's something CJ and Jalen Anderson have done from an off-returner perspective. And now if they don't catch it, they're big body guys to lead up through the hole. Traylon Ray has been back there some. There's been about a pool of probably 8 to 10 guys. Some that may not do it in the fall. But those are some of the main guys. But this is our time to make sure we can build that pool so that we don't have any issues as the season goes on. Jaheim White returned last year. So all those, if you're a skilled player and you carry the football, there's a good chance this spring you're going to have an opportunity to catch. And that's the other thing we can do in some of these competitions. We do that 4-on-4 competition, which is a punt versus pride. We're shooting a ball back to those returners. So they got to catch it. And as these guys are flying on the field, they've got to make full-speed decisions. So it's a great evaluation tool for us on who can see the cuts, who can anticipate the cuts. And it'll be no difference next week when we get into our 3-on-3 with kickoff versus kickoff return. We're going to have a returner back there with a ball being shot to them, and they've got to set the return up. They've got to hit it. So there's a lot of things that we're getting accomplished right now, even though we don't necessarily have to do 11 on 11.